Hey guys, LC Holt here, and this is my weekly update for June the 3rd. Today, we're going to be talking about Terminator, all the mini sequels of Terminator. There have been about this is where we're about to have the fourth part three of Terminator. So they've been rebooting this thing for quite some time now. And anyway, joining me today to talk about the Terminator sequels and this new upcoming one, which is called Terminator Dark Fate, is Rebecca Ivy.
Hello.
And Ryan Rainick.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. So what we're going to do here is we're going to talk about kind of the whole series, and we'll work our way into the sequels and talk about, who was in them and how we liked them and stuff. But this whole thing started back in 1984, actually a little bit before that, because a guy named James Cameron, who had just directed a great film called Piranha the Spawning. Piranha 2, The Spawning. It was a sequel for Roger Corman. Went to Paris. And he got some food poisoning. And he was laying in bed one night, and he had a fever dream. And in this fever dream, he said he saw a wall of fire. And coming through the wall of fire was a steel skeleton with red eyes. And he woke up from this fever dream, and he's an artist, really good painter and sketch artist. He was a production designer originally. He drew sets and stuff. And he drew he did a little painting of this steel skeleton coming out of the fire. And that became the original sketch of the Terminator, which didn't really change. So at that point, he just had an image of a steel beast coming out of a fire with red eyes. And then he built this whole script up around it. And, having only directed Piranha 2, The Spawning, and having been fired, actually, off Piranha 2, The Spawning, before it was finished, he didn't really have a track record. But him and his girlfriend, Gail Ann Hurd, who wanted to be a film producer, decided, let's get this script together, and we'll shop it around and see if we can get a movie made. And they did get a movie made. And it was called The Terminator. And there was a lot of behind-the-scenes stories about the film. Originally, James Cameron was going to cast Lance Henriksen as the Terminator. And Lance Henriksen, went on to become a great actor. He was a really fascinating guy. He wrote an autobiography called Not Bad for a Human, which I suggest you check out, because he had a really interesting life. He was illiterate until I think he was in his 30s. He learned Lance Henriksen was illiterate, and he learned how to read through movie scripts. So
how does it even happen?
I don't know, man. I mean, he had like a really abusive father. He had a rough life, Lance.
Where did he grow up?
I think he grew up in the Midwest.
Man, everyone in the Midwest can read.
Well,
oh, that's brutal. I'm from the Midwest.
Yeah. Lance couldn't read until he was in his 30s. But hey,
Lance.
He was an actor, and he got cast as the Terminator. But here's the deal, though. Poor Lance. James Cameron had a meeting with this guy, with an actor named Arnold Schwarzenegger, who had just done a movie that was really popular called Conan the Barbarian. And the producers of the Terminator were like, Arnold Schwarzenegger was in this Conan movie, and it was really successful, and he might want to be in this movie. So, Jim, why don't you go have a lunch with him and see if you can work out a deal? And originally, the producers were like, this Kyle Reese guy who comes from the future, why can't that be Arnold Schwarzenegger? And James Cameron was like, oh, no, like he's too big. It's supposed to be like a normal looking guy. And so anyway, to satisfy, you have to remember James Cameron had only done Piranha 2, The Spawning. So to satisfy these producers, because he wanted to get his fucking movie made, So he's like, okay, I'll go meet with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And so he goes and he meets with him with the intention of picking a fight with Arnold Schwarzenegger so that Arnold won't want to work with him, because he didn't want Arnold for Kyle Reese. And then Arnold said at this meeting, I like the script, but the part I'm really interested in is the Terminator. And James Cameron was like, oh, like he didn't see him for Kyle Reese at all. But then when Arnold said the Terminator, he sort of sat up straight and thought, that might be kind of interesting. And it took him by surprise, because he thought Arnold Schwarzenegger, who had just been in this big budget movie, wouldn't want to play a part that had like 5 lines, because the Terminator doesn't talk very much in that first one. But Arnold really wanted to play the Terminator. So unfortunately for Lance Henriksen, he got the part of the Terminator, and Lance Henriksen kind of got booted out. But he is in the movie. He plays one of the detectives. Like, he went from playing the Terminator to playing like detective number 2. I mean, he has a name, but he gets shot, and he's not in very much of the movie, Lance. But Jim Cameron made it up to him, because when he did Aliens, like a year later, he cast Lance Henriksen as an android in that, Bishop. And now everybody knows Bishop. That was his huge big break, So it's not like Lance didn't get anything out of it. He just had to wait till the next movie to get like the really good android part. But so anyway, yeah, so they made the Terminator, and people were like, this is a B movie. This isn't going to be a big thing. It's like a robot and some woman that no one's ever heard of, an actress. No one's going to go see this. And lo and behold, they go see it. And it becomes this huge thing. And at the same time it's becoming a huge thing, Jim Cameron's off writing and directing Alien. So his career is about to take off big league, in the words of our president. Big league. And but then, pretty much after that, they go, well, why don't you do a sequel to Terminator? And James is like, I just did Aliens. I want to do this movie underwater called The Abyss. I don't really want to do Terminator anymore. Until like the early 90s. And then he got up with this writer named William Wisher Jr., and they started to come up with some ideas for how they might bring back the Terminator, which was originally intended to be a one-shot deal, no sequels. That's ironic now, isn't it? But
what was the original gap between the first and second one?
Let's see. The Terminator Part 1 came out October 26, 1984. And Terminator 2 Judgment Day came out July 3rd, 1991. So 84 to 91.
I was going to say, I thought it was right around that time.
Yeah, because I remember as a kid seeing that first trailer for Terminator 2. And remember, it was like the assembly. It wasn't footage from the movie. It was like an assembly line. And they were all being pressed. And then the press opened and the steam cleared, and there was Arnold. And it was like Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I mean, I very vividly remember that trailer as a kid. And at that time,
back there were so few options. It's like, there's only so many movies out. So if there's 4 out, particular one's going to get shoved down your throat. It didn't matter if it was good or bad. That was just the time.
And it was pre-internet too, so you saw this trailer like on the front.
Yeah, that's the main reason. It was just every channel, just on repeat. I have any other option.
And I don't even know what it was, but some 20th Century Fox movie came out on VHS, and you popped it in, and in the trailers that ran before the movie, that popped up, and you're like, oh wow, they're making another one. And of course, at that point, you didn't know the story, or that there was going to be a liquid metal man, or that Arnold was a good guy, or anything like that. Which that was kind of the great thing about that time period, because you never knew until basically you went to see the fucking movie.
You used to have to hold fast forward.
Yeah. And I don't even know what movie that trailer was in front of, but the trailer was probably better than the movie.
Their trailers are always better. Well, not always, but the one I'm still angry about.
It may have been in front of another Arnie VHS release.
It probably was. It was probably in front of Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop. I remember that because the store, when I was a kid, like you go to movies and they were all there at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and all the Van Damme movies were very big.
Yeah, and I remember the big cardboard cutouts, life
Yes.
size of Arnold with the shotgun standing next to the Harley that came with this movie. And I remember going to the theater and seeing this Terminator 2 Judgment.
Yeah, I did too.
I didn't get to go see it. We rented it when it came out on VHS, and it took us forever because it was always out at the video store. You just had to get in there when someone just returned a copy.
Yeah, yeah.
See, that's something people don't know about nowadays. Like when a movie came out on VHS, if you didn't get in there early, your ass wasn't watching this movie. You couldn't turn on your computer and stream this fucking thing.
And you couldn't buy it yet.
Right, yeah. Right, because it came out of the theater, then you could rent it, and then you could buy it.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember there was like this corner store by me, and they were like, there was like this little number, and if the number was like on the hook, it was in. So you'd go look like it's time.
Yeah.
But then some people got a little bit more ambitious and smart and started like actually stocking more of them, and then the Blockbuster happened and everything else. But
yeah, because they didn't have a lot of copies either of these movies.
It was ridiculous. Like looking back, like it was the most poorly planned, like managed by a high school student thing ever. Except it was nationwide and mandatory.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's right. It's weird because you think back at these things, how different it was.
Bunch of copies. You guys are talking about. My store was just full, and we could always get what we want all the time. Like no one has a story. Nobody.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and it seemed as like the 90s went by, they started to carry more because then when they were done renting it, they would just previously viewed.
Yeah, you could just sell it.
This. Yes.
Yeah.
And then like the video store would come back at people for like $100, be like, look, it's like 19 days late. You owe us this much. People would fight over it.
I remember
what great times.
As a kid, I remember trying to trying to outsmart the movie gallery or whatever and keep the movie that I really liked. Like I remember this one time, I'm going to go slightly off topic, but we're going to come back to the Terminator. I was a huge Ghostbusters fan. And when Ghostbusters 2 came out, they only had one copy at Movie Gallery. And you remember they used to have a Ghostbusters animated show called The Real Ghostbusters?
Yes.
Well, I had a VHS of some of those episodes. So when we rented Ghostbusters 2, the movie, what I did is I took the movie out of the movie gallery box and I swapped them. But I took a ballpoint pen to the Real Ghostbusters VHS and I wrote a 2.
Why didn't you just switch labels?
Well, I wasn't that sophisticated. I just wrote a 2. So it's like the Real Ghostbusters and then some kid writing 2 beside it and stuck it in the movie gallery box. And that's what was returned to the movie gallery. And I kept Ghostbusters 2 until the movie gallery called my mother and was like, hey, someone rented Ghostbusters 2 and they put it in and it's a cartoon. And so I had to my mother was mad at me and everything. And let's see, that came out in about 1990. So I was maybe 9 or 10.
Yeah.
Do you remember also taking, I remember people doing this, taking 2 VCRs.
Yeah.
And that was your way of copying the movie onto a blank cassette.
Like basketball films, because I had a whole bunch of footage, but I used them for that purpose. But yeah, that was a lot of people use that.
Yeah, you just do the old. That was the old school piracy.
Yes, but the second copy was never.
I did that
as good as this.
This is how sad it is. I actually did that once with Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Like I asked my uncle to set up 2 VCRs together so that I could have a copy of Superman 4. Again, I was not very sophisticated. I was a very young child when that came out. But anyway, back to the Terminator. That liquid metal man, played by Robert Patrick, how fucking awesome was that in 1990?
What great casting. Like, what fantastic casting.
And those effects are still damn good.
Yes.
Like, they hold up. Which...
No, yeah, I could watch it right now.
It's amazing if you think about effects in some movies, and even in the late 90s, and you look at them now, or even like the Star Wars prequels, and you look at it now, and you're like, ooh, that didn't look very good. But this was like 1992 digital technology, and it looks great.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, James Cameron's always been ahead of his time, man. State of the art, and he's got 4 new Avatar movies coming out, and the word is he's been delaying them because he wants them to be the first 3D movies without glasses. So he's trying to push it.
Wow, really?
That's the story. Is the reason Avatar is taking like 11 years to come out is because he wants it to be the first movie that has the glasses less 3D technology, so you can sit in the theater.
But that's awesome, because sometimes I hate on the guy, but that's awesome. Good.
He's always been about pushing the state of the art forward. That is definitely the case with Jim Cameron. Every movie he said this in interviews. Every movie he tries to write something that will make them create new technology to do it, like he did with Terminator 2, and he did it with
True Lies.
True Lies. Did it with The Abyss, and that's pretty impressive. But
he has the luxury of being able to think that way. If you're depending what you're working on, you can't think that way. Even if you could think it's outside of the box, you want to. Like, he has the advantage of knowing whatever he writes down is going to get made.
Right.
When you're making a different type of film, you can't just be like, what? I'm going to make this so hard. They're going to have to invent shit just for me to get this film made, and it's not going to impede filming.
And I guess, when you have directed the #1 and #2 top grossing movies of all time in the world.
Yeah, you can do what you can do what you want.
Yeah. Which, that's pretty amazing that the same guy beat the record. Like, #1 is Avatar and #2 is Titanic, still to this day. And it's crazy. I mean,
well, I think he used whatever psychology gets like 13 to 18-year-old women to come to his movies 9 times. Like, he's very good at that. He gets very good at repeat young female over and over and over again viewer. He's very good at that.
And this is the thing I've always said about like the Terminator movie or any James Cameron movies is he really does tell a story.
Yeah, not that the Terminator is like a female movie, overly feminine or anything, but I'm just saying, like, that's to me how he got the 1 and 2 spot.
Well, if you think about it, like, he's very good at characters.
Oh no. Too. I'm just saying how it was possible for him to do the #2 thing. Like, then it breaks down to like nothing to do with talent and how good you are or aren't. Just that's how the numbers game played out. But yeah, as far as the movie, he's very good.
Well, I think that's the difference between the ones that he was involved in and the ones that came out later. When I watched the sequels, maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I didn't really care about the characters as much. I just kind of,
You're talking about Terminator 2?
No. The ones after that, after he
was
just kind of like, meh. You're not as invested in them. And I think that's his gift is the way he writes characters. Because sometimes when you watch the newer ones after he left, you sit there and think, are actors just not as charismatic as they used to be? Or is it the script? Or is it both? I don't know. But, when you go, and then you go back and watch the first 2, you sit there and think, wow, these are amazing. These people are amazing. And
yeah, because that is a big part of, I think, what makes the sequels that came after Terminator 2 so lackluster is it just I don't really care about the characters. It's not as if there's an emotional involvement. You're basically just seeing, we'll go case by case, like Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. That came out like 2003. I was in college when that came out.
We saw it together.
We went to see it in the theater, and it was, it was like they just said, Terminator 2 had some funny scenes. Let's make it even funnier. It was such a rehash of something. There was nothing new. You had the Terminatrix in there, but the first thing she does is she deceives the policeman by growing her breasts larger. And you just go, well, okay, your main enemy lost her threat instantly. I can't be like Terminator 2, like that fucking liquid metal guy was scary all the way through. Yes. The first scene you see the Terminatrix in.
Term.
Do what?
I like the liquid metal guy term.
Yeah, well, the T-1000, we'll call him by his technical designation. He was scary all the way through and a physical threat. And then you had the TX, the woman in 3, and you just go, well, the first scene she's in, she's a joke. So she's not scary. You're instantly eliminating any threat because I can't be afraid of a woman that has a joke where her breasts grow larger to deceive a cop. And then not only that, but you remember she has this primary weapon, which is like a cannon in her hand.
Yeah.
And she uses it once and the fucking thing breaks. Her primary weapon broke the second time she used it. And she's supposed to be more advanced than the T-1000. His shit never broke.
No, he just made new ones.
They blew it. They froze him and blew his ass up.
Like, you know what? I think it's going to be a problem later.
Say what? Say that again?
So then even when he was gone, you're like, you know what? I think it's going to be a problem later. Like, it's just that was just the character was great.
Yeah, I mean, and by the time he melted in that metal, which is the only way they could kill him, you were kind of thinking, well, that whole fucking vat of metal is going to come up out or something, you know?
Yeah, that was my exact point. Like, even when he was gone, you're like still wondering, well, did I win? You know, like that's a great opponent.
Yeah.
And the fact that he could shapeshift.
Yeah, that was a good one because that upped the ante. Because in the first one, the Terminator looked like a human. He looked like a really buff human, but he looked like a human.
All he could do was change his voice.
And then in the second one, this guy could you could be the Terminator and like run me through with one of those blades and I never would have known it. But there was nothing, and that's another thing I wanted to point out. There was never, we were talking about how Jim Cameron always advanced to a new cool idea. Well, after the T-1000, correct me if I'm wrong, but they never advanced to any new cool thing.
No.
They had a woman Terminator who grew her breasts large and her primary weapon broke in the second scene. And then in Terminator Salvation, which I know is Ryan's favorite, they had Sam Worthington in there, but and he was like a human he was a machine that didn't know he was a human or something.
And you talked about the characters, like the female in that. I think I saw on the cover of Maxim like the week of, and then I remember the movie and like she had no line. I remember the one time like they crossed this like field or whatever, and she said like one thing. It was like 3 words. I'm like, okay, that's fair.
Salvation was sort of a sequel to Rise of the Machines because that character is introduced in Rise of the Machines, his wife, but she's played by Claire Danes in Rise of the Machines, this so-called Terminator life.
Yes.
And then in Salvation, she's played by Ron Howard's daughter, Bryce. Yeah. And that was kind of the thing that they added to Rise of the Machines is, he's got a wife.
Yeah.
And it was, and John Connor in Rise was played by Nick Stahl. And then he was played by Christian Bale in Salvation. And, Christian Bale, was fresh.
He's my favorite Batman and my least favorite Terminator. Guy.
Yeah.
Not the Terminator, you know what I mean? Least favorite lead in Terminator. God.
Yeah, that was something.
I was sitting there.
I don't want to act right now, but I want the money.
Well, he had the same voice, which you pointed out on another show, as he talks in the exact same voice in Terminator that he did in Batman.
Yeah.
I'm John Connor.
No, it like ruined it for me, like from the get-go, and I was waiting for that, I was like, disappointment. And the rest of the movie was just disappointment too.
Well, talk about a disappointment.
The trailer was great. God, the Terminator 4 trailer was great.
Let me jump back about a disappointment, because that reminded me of something from Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. That was disappointing. As you watch the movie, and Linda Hamilton's dead.
Yeah.
Sarah Connor died of cancer because Linda Hamilton didn't want to come back.
She saw the script.
Yeah, she saw that script and she was like, the Terminator puts on goofy glasses in the first scene. No, thank you.
So is this why this is like a reboot of the third? Because I didn't even know that's what they're doing this time till you said it when you opened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's...
we're saying that the other thing just never happened. Is that where we're going?
Yes, that did not happen.
Yeah, Rise of the Machine never happened. Salvation never happened.
It's sort of like when they did Superman Returns.
Right. They said that Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 happened. Yeah. But with the new movie, this is, the continuation of that, of Terminator 2. None of the other ones happened.
Yeah.
I wish it would say those exact words as the movie started.
You know, I wish they would too. But the thing that kills it is they've kind of already said that before.
Every movie. Don't pay attention.
Yeah, because they've been trying to reboot this Terminator thing for like since when?
2003?
Since 2003, they've been trying to reboot these Terminator things, and every time they do it, it fails. And so by the time you get to the fourth reboot, it just, to me, it loses its luster, because I'm like, okay, so here we go again, guys. Let's see, Arnold is going to be here, and
well, it does involve time travel. There are all these alternate universe time travels, right?
But I mean, do you think that's something they should suggest? Like, should they just say all this shit was? No, they shouldn't.
No,
just leave it alone.
No.
But
which brings me to a question. Well, I mean, maybe this is a dumb question. We're talking about the time travel, but what happened to Michael Biehn?
Yeah. Well, Michael Biehn is the guy who was cast as Kyle Reese, and he was in part 1, and then he was in a dream sequence in part 2 that was cut out of the movie. But if you watch the director's cut, he's in the movie, because but in part 2 where Sarah is in the institution and she decides to break out. The reason she decided to break out is because she has a dream where Kyle Reese comes to her and says, "Our son is in danger. You have to get out and protect him." And then that's why she wakes up and escapes the institution. Well, they cut that part out. So it just seems like she just decided to escape one night. But that, if you watch the director's cut, that scene's in there. But in terms of official releases, Michael Biehn was only ever in the first one. And, for those of you, for like the 5 of you who don't know the story, here's kind of how it plays out. So there was this lady named Sarah Connor, and she had a son named John Connor. And that son grew up. Do what?
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And this son grew up, and when in 1997, when Skynet, which was an artificial intelligence, was almost shut off by human hands, Skynet went nuts and set off all these weapons onto Russia, and then Russia fired back. And so Skynet caused the 2 human superpowers to kill each other. And then the machines took over, the Skynet Terminator machines. And so John Connor rose from the ashes and became the leader of the human resistance against the machines. And then right when they were shutting down Skynet, finally, Skynet had perfected time travel technology somehow and sent a Terminator back in time. Actually sent like about 5 fucking Terminators back in time. I mean, if we really want to be honest, they sent about 5 fucking Terminators. Okay, and they sent, but they sent one back to kill Sarah, and then John Connor, the adult John Connor, sent Kyle Reese, Michael Bihn's character, back to protect his mother. But John knew this, but he didn't tell Kyle that when he went back to protect his mother, he was also going to like knock her up with him. So this all gets into like weird time travel shit. So if John hadn't sent Kyle back, he never would have been born, because Kyle, who is a guy that he protected and raised, is actually his father.
And gave him the picture of his mother to fall in love with. How weird is that?
Yeah, while she was pregnant with him. Yes. Chew on that one for a while. But anyway, Terminator Salvation shows Kyle Reese, not played by Michael Biehn, but played by the late Anton Yelchin. Who, I mean, how fucking weird is that? How that kid died. I mean, I don't want to get off on something, but I mean, he was crushed by his own car. I remember I was filming a movie and someone said, "Hey, Anton Yelchin just died?" And I was like, "What are you talking about? How did he die?" And they said his car rolled backwards and pinned him against the gate of his house and he suffocated. And I was like, what a freak fucking thing. Talented young actor. He was in a whole bunch of shit. He was in the Star Trek movies. He played Chekhov. And but anyway, very sad story. But Anton Yelchin played Kyle Reese in that. And you saw Christian Bale sort of take his father under his wing, his teenaged father under his wing. And then the Terminators were putting humans in concentration camps or something. I don't know why they were doing that, but Kyle wound up in there, and then the whole end of the movie was, John Connor has to rush the gates to save his father from the Terminator concentration camp. And then he faces off with a T-800, which was Arnold's model. And that was how they got Arnold in the movie, even though really Arnold wasn't in the movie because he was busy being the governor at the time. But they wanted to get Arnold in there, so they got like a big buff guy like he used to be, and they just did one of those digital things and put Arnold's face on him. And then Christian Bale fought quasi-Arnold Terminator. But one of the cool things about Salvation,
I almost don't even remember that movie. I don't think I've ever watched it again. I watched it one time in the theater and then never again.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I did like about it, and this is such like a minor Easter egg thing, but when he's fighting Arnold and he drops some metal on him and the Arnold part burns off and it's just that white hot skeleton coming.
Yeah.
And Christian Bale's down on the floor and the white hot hand is coming toward him, and it gets like right here, and the tips of the fingers burn 2 big scars in his eye, around his eye. And I went, oh, that's cool, because in the Flash, because when they showed the future John Connor in Terminator 2, he had those scars, those same scars on his eye. I was like, oh, so that explains how he got the scars. That was one little detail about Terminator Salvation that I did like, was how they explained where he got those scars on his eyes. But other than that, that one was the Terminator Salvation was directed by Mick G. What a fucking name. Mick G. What have yous. But it was, that was the Charlie's Angel guy. Mm-hmm. He did the 2 Charlie's Angels movies. And, there's a very famous sort of deal with Christian Bale on the set of that movie where he flipped the fuck out on the director of photography. You remember that, Ryan?
Oh, God.
Terminator?
Yeah, on Terminator Salvation, where Christian Bale.
Was that the unprofessional rant?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fun. I'm almost tempted to play it.
Because can we?
We can play it, yeah. You want to hear it?
Shit. Yeah, it's funny.
All right, let me see if I can. Hang on just a second.
Because I don't I remember the rant, but I didn't really associate the rant with any particular movie because it wouldn't matter what movie the rant's from.
Okay, there we go. So we got that there, and
that air like this in the background. What the fuck is it with you? What don't you fucking understand? You got any fucking idea about, hey, it's fucking distracting having somebody walking up behind Bryce in the middle of the fucking scene? Give me a fucking answer. What don't you get about it?
I was looking at the light.
Oh, good for you. And how was it?
Good for you. How was it? See, the guy that's talking there is Shane, some guy named Shane, who's the director of photography on the movie. And apparently while they were rehearsing a scene, him and Bryce Howard, who was playing his wife, Shane was walking around behind, adjusting the lights. So, which is a big no-no. Like when you're actually shooting a scene and an actor is trying to concentrate, you have somebody walking in the background adjusting lights. You might not want to do that because you're trying to concentrate. But anyway, that's kind of the backstory. Here we go.
I hope it was fucking good because it's useless now, isn't it? Fuck's sake, man, you're amateur. McGee, you got fucking something to say to this prick?
Didn't see it happen.
Well, somebody should be fucking watching and keeping an eye on him.
Fair enough.
There's a second time that he doesn't give a fuck about what is going on in front of the camera. All right? I'm trying to fucking do a scene here and I'm going, why the fuck is Shane walking in there? What is he doing there?
Nick shot.
He's like, why is Shane in there? What's he doing in there? Oh God! Like, I'm sorry, that would be fucking distracting. I mean,
I actually agree with him.
Yeah, I'm not trying to like say you should freak out, but he's.
Have you ever been on a set like you know? I mean, not you. I'm talking about like just this random person. Like they pretty much block off the street. You know what I mean? So no one can get in your shot. That's the whole point of having everything blocked off.
What's Shane doing in there? Why is he in there? Okay, here we go.
Understand, my mind is not in the scene if you're doing that. Stay off the fucking set, man. For fuck's sake. Right, let's go again. Let's not take a fucking minute. Let's go again. And let's not have you fucking walking in.
That reminds me of Bill O'Reilly, that one rant Bill O'Reilly had.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? You know, you're right. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
That particular Bill O'Reilly rant after this, because that one where he's like, I'll write it myself. That's one of the, it reminds me so much of this character. Bill O'Reilly could have played this part.
You're unbelievable, man. You're unfucking believable. Number of times you're strolling and fucking around in the background. I never had a DP behave like this. You don't fucking understand what it's like working with actors. That's what that is. That's what that is, man. I'm telling you. I'm not asking. I'm telling you.
Oh, he pulled out like the dad thing. I'm not asking. I'm telling you. Right? That's what your dad would say to you. Oh, shit. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you.
You wouldn't have done that otherwise.
He says you're looking at the light, making sure everything's all right.
I'm gonna fucking kick your fucking ass. You know, shut up for a second, all right? I'm gonna go. You want me to go fucking trash your lights?
Oh.
Then why are you trashing my scene? You are trashing my scene. You do it one more fucking time, and I ain't walking on this set if you're still hired.
Oh.
I'm fucking serious. You're a nice guy. You're a nice guy, but I don't fucking cut it when you're bullshitting and fucking around like this on set.
See, now that right there, he's pulling out his Batman on that. And he's like, listen, I'm Batman, motherfucker. I can have you fired.
Yeah, you might get it. He doesn't fucking get it.
I get it.
You might.
I get it.
He does not get it.
Good adjustments. Okay? For real. Honestly, get it.
No, I don't need any fucking walking. He needs to stop walking. I ain't the one walking. Let's get Tom and put this back on. Let's go again. Seriously, man, you and me, we're fucking done professionally.
Wow. Well, I
think
that's. I was gonna say I think that's about it, but yeah, I think that's it. They should have just done that. They should have just been filming that and played it in a loop for about 2 hours. I would have watched it. But so yeah, so that's Terminator Salvation. After that, they made one called Terminator Genesis, directed by a guy named Alan Taylor, whoever that is. And I don't know. I watched it, and it's totally forgettable. It's this weird thing where they try to do a sequel and a reboot because they go back and they have somebody else play Kyle Reese, Jay Courtney, and he goes back in time and he meets Sarah Connor, and they play out some scenes from the original Terminator with someone who's not Linda Hamilton. Yeah. And I don't know. It just didn't work. It was another one of those weird go back in time, create an alternate timeline things. But if you don't have Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor, it's kind of odd. And Jay Courtney doesn't look anything like Michael Biehn, Kyle Reese. And of course, Arnold was back because by this point he was no longer the governor. But didn't really care for it. Completely I mean, I don't remember anything about it hardly. The only thing I remember is there's a great scene in the original Terminator where there's a garbage man, and he goes, you know, there's this weird dubbing thing where the lightning from the time travel is happening, and he's like, "What the hell? what the hell? And they redo it. And when they did the scene in Terminator Genesis, they do the same thing. The guy's like, what the hell? Huh? What the hell? Son of a bitch. I was like, that part I liked, but that was about it. Mainly because that part in Terminator makes me laugh. But, and now, November 1st this year, Terminator Dark Fate is coming out. And it's going to be directed by Tim Miller, the man who brought us Deadpool Part 1. And he would have brought us Deadpool Part 2, but Ryan Reynolds had him fired. But he got
I didn't see Deadpool 2 yet. Is it any good?
I'm not a huge Deadpool fan, honestly. I mean, it's funny. It's okay. But it's not Tim Miller. You can tell the difference in the director. Because, you know,
Why did he get him fired?
Well, Tim Miller was, you know, Ryan Reynolds liked the Deadpool character. He played him in the Wolverine origin thing. But he wanted to make a really good Deadpool movie. And so he got this guy, Tim Miller, involved. And Tim Miller was like a huge special effects, digital effects guy. They couldn't get anybody interested in doing a Deadpool movie. So Tim Miller made this like amazing proof of concept short film with Ryan Reynolds in the actual Deadpool outfit. And it was basically the scene on the overpass where he jumps down into the car and there's all the fun. And it looked so amazing for like a proof of concept that got the movie. Well, actually what happened, they had the script, they had the proof of concept. And ironically enough, Tim Miller showed it to James Cameron. And it was later revealed that James Cameron thought, wow, this is amazing. Like, you should make this. So he made a few calls on Tim Miller's behalf. And actually, he was a big part of why the first Deadpool got made, because James Cameron backed it. Even though he didn't take any credit for it, he never said anything about it until much later. So what happened then is Ryan Reynolds and Tim Miller had a falling out over Deadpool 2. And from what I understand, it was because Ryan Reynolds wanted more control over the script. And he wanted to concentrate more on a raunchy style of humor, make it even more raunchy. And Tim Miller kind of wanted to go a different route. Tim Miller wanted to hire somebody else to play Cable. And Ryan Reynolds wanted Josh Brolin. And so they just had a complete breakdown. And Ryan Reynolds at that point was the producer of the movie. And even though it really was Tim Miller's proof of concept that got the original Deadpool made, honestly, and probably his connection to Jim Cameron that helped to get it made, he got fired. And they hired somebody else to direct Deadpool Part 2. So, but here's the bright side. Jim Cameron was like, I want to make 3 more Terminator movies. And unlike those other sequels,
they're making 3 more?
Yes. Because what James Cameron said was, he's like, you know, James Cameron is like, whoa, the acid just kicked in. What James Cameron said was he wants to think big about this new Terminator franchise, and he wants to do 3 of them. And he's like, unlike these other ones, I want to come up with the story. I want to produce it. I want to have a hand in the whole thing. And Tim Miller, they fired you off Deadpool 2. I'm going to hire you to direct all 3 of these Terminators. So he gave Tim Miller the job of doing of being the director of the new 3 Terminators.
They're trying to make it like a continuation and a new beginning at the same time.
Yeah, well, no, it's going to be a part 3, 4, and 5, basically. Because James Cameron's like, my movies are the ones that count, and now the next 3 are going to be continuations of my movies. Which,
you know what? Maybe that's the only thing that'll solve this. Then, you know, like I guess that's probably the best idea.
I think that is the best idea. I mean,
no. If anything is gonna make it any better, because like you said earlier, like the ridiculousness and the redundancy of some of the plot lines are, you know, it makes it hard. But I think it'll be good.
I think so too. I have high hopes for it. I love
it's James Cameron's thing, you know. So I mean, if he has control over the story, you know, it's going to be
well. And he's got Linda Hamilton back.
Yes.
And that's how they got Linda Hamilton back, as James Cameron came on board. Now, if you know some of the history, after James Cameron made Titanic. He was married to Linda Hamilton, okay? He married her around the time of Terminator 2. They'd been dating off and on since the first Terminator. He married her. They were married for like 5 or 6 years up until 1997, 8. He cheated on her. She divorced him right after Terminator, or right after Titanic. She got half that Titanic money. Love you, Linda. I know Linda.
Wow.
I've done some conventions with her. She was my smoking buddy. She's a great lady, great gal. But I tell you what, she is quite a character. And she, and I always wanted to ask her for like a loan, some of that from that Titanic money. Yeah, but I'm not that bold. But anyway, I love that she's coming back for it, and that's something that I'm kind of into because I just like her personally. Like, I think she's a cool lady.
And that's kind of a point because I remember when the original Terminator movies come out. Like my mom watched the show that she was on, Beauty and the Beast, and my mom liked the Terminator movies because she loved Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
So it's like my mom was like, Linda Hamilton, woo!
And I tell you, if you look at those good Beauty and the Beast,
yes.
That's a reference not everybody's going to get. But if you look at the new trailer, she's gotten in shape. Like that, she's made it. Last time I saw her was maybe 2 years ago, and like physically saw her, and she's made a transformation. I'll put it that way.
I need to get a picture of her from the trailer and put her on my fridge as inspiration.
Yeah.
So, like,
say that again, Ryan.
How old is she now?
Oh man, she's got to be in her 60s. Yeah, she's got to be in her 60s. Yeah.
Like I saw the same thing. She looks like freaking that age. And to be female, it's hard to keep weight on at that age.
Yeah, I don't know what she was doing, but she's gotten in shape for. Well, you know, she's Sarah Connor, and when you think of Sarah Connor, you think of
Part 2.
Yeah. You know, she's tough. She's a tough lady. The funny thing about Part 2, always when I see her running through the halls of the institution, you notice she always runs on her toes. I remember my mother used to say she had to have been a dancer because, you know, dancers, you're trained to run on your toes because if you run on your heel, it's bad for your legs. So every time you see her running, it's like that's a ballet training coming in. But I don't know how much she's going to be running in the new movie, but she's probably going to be shooting and blowing a lot of shit up, which I think is pretty cool. I don't really know the plot of the new movie so much. I know there are 3 lead female characters, including, Linda as Sarah Connor again. And I think they're going to do something with Edward Furlong where they digitally put his face in flashbacks as a kid on, because God knows you don't want to put his face now. But him as a kid, you digitally put his face on another kid for flashbacks. I don't know if John Connor is dead in these movies.
And what about, I know I
and the new one? I don't know.
Bean. Come on, I'm really worried about him.
Yeah. Well,
will we have flashbacks with him actually, or
I don't know.
Something, or
I met Michael Bean. I didn't hang out with him like I did with Linda Hamilton, but he's a rough customer.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I got along with him perfectly fine, but it's like you got to catch him on the right day because he can be a very rough customer. But I thought he was fine, nice guy, whatever. But I know she is, and hey, I don't know. Maybe they'll bring him back as Reese. I don't know, Ryan. What do you think about this new Terminator Dark Fate and all the? What do you think about the potential of it?
They're going to make a lot of money. You know, if you talk about just being good, I mean, I think it's good all around. They'll make money. It'll be bad because Cameron's doing it. I think it's a win-win.
I
think so too. I'm pretty enthusiastic about seeing it. What about you, Brett?
Yeah, I'm interested because it's Linda Hamilton's back, and Cameron is involved in it. I don't think he would let them sink it.
You might have to sell Africa on it. People are dropkicking Arnold over there.
Well, I think it's going to be a pretty interesting thing. I think Ryan is right. It'll make money. I'm interested to see how the reaction is. I think if you hadn't had all those other ones, it would be a bigger deal that Linda
Mhm.
Hamilton is coming back and that James Cameron's coming back, and it would be like, wow, they're finally bringing. But you've had like 3 that people didn't go see, so I don't know. I hope it's a success, honestly, for all those involved, because I think it's good crew. I'm glad that the original folks are back. But anyway, that's our Terminator show, and I think we've pretty much covered a lot of material today. Did you have a good time?
Yeah.
I think we're all fairly optimistic for about Terminator Dark Fate. Ryan, man, I want to thank you for joining me yet again. You have a good time?
No problem. Sorry, I'm kind of like out of it today. I'm getting very little sleep lately.
That's no problem, man. We had a good time.
Busy.
Rebecca, thank you for joining me.
Absolutely.
And thank all you guys for watching. And until next week, take care of yourselves.